Oh, it keeps wanting to fall back. There we go. Okay, so I am so emotionally drained now after finishing, was episode 11, basically. It's the episode where Dan dies. He dies. He like went from being like Rambo to like this weak man in a hospital bed. It was such a dramatic change. It was such an emotional episode. It was where Haley first saw Nathan again. I mean, my goodness, they basically been separated this entire season. I think they were together a couple minutes when he came back, and then he immediately turned right back around and went to Europe, and then he was kidnapped. So it was the first time that they really had very much interaction this entire season, and she was so happy to see him, and she started crying immediately, and I started crying, and it was just a tear fest from that point on. The point where, like, so Brooke's dad just shows up out of nowhere, and frankly, we all know Brooke's dad well enough to know that it's a little fishy. Like, if he's being that nice and like, oh, let's not talk about business right now, like, there's got to be a reason why. And of course, it's because he wants to sell Baker Man before it's even begun, because Brooke Davis's name is attached to it. And basically, he's schmoozing her just like any other client, and it must be heartbreaking to have, you know, so there are fathers that are like present in your life, and there are fathers that are not present in your life, but I don't think there's that many fathers that use their kids, you know, and like are in their lives but like play them for a fool. I mean, that must just be awful. And you, in that moment, that's my ceiling. In that moment, I gotta find my tripod. Here, let me just hold you. In that moment, you just feel so bad for Brooke, because here she's been through this horrible thing with Xavier, and you know, her friends are going through this like ridiculous tragedy with Nathan being kidnapped, and all this drama, all this freaking drama. And her dad looks like he's being like sincere for a moment in their life, and it's not. So you feel really bad for her. I thought it was kind of touching, the moment between Clay and Logan kind of starting to reconnect as father and son, but I cannot get over the horrible dye job on Logan's hair. I can't. It's awful. It is awful. And then there was, I don't know where my focus was. So there's the horrible dye job of Logan's hair. Then there's the moment where Haley and Brooke are like, kind of, they're standing face to face, and they're holding hands, and the camera's kind of doing a wide shot, and there's this extra sitting in the waiting room, but she's the only extra in the entire place, and she's framed in the shot, so she's sitting directly between the two, you know, Haley and Brooke that are talking to each other, and it is so distracting, and I just keep thinking, like, who is that chick? There is someone, or I guess the original air date of this episode, because I'm weeks behind, there's some chick in the United States that was like, oh my god, that's me, I'm the awkward placed extra in the back of this pivotal scene. It's like emotional tearjerker scene between girlfriends. Like, I don't know, it's just, this is where my mind is at 10 o'clock at night. And then there was there was a continuity error when Haley asked Dan if she wanted to hold Lydia, and she picks Lydia up, and you see Lydia's shoe fall, so she doesn't have any shoes on. And then the next scene where Jamie comes in, and, you know, when Lydia asks about her grandpa Dan, I'm gonna tell her how much he loved his grandchildren, and they showed the grandkids, you know, like piled up on Dan, and I'm thinking, what about Lucas's kids? Like, he's really not in their life. But Lydia has her shoes on. So anyways, it's just like minor things. This super emotional episode. I'm crying ridiculousness. And then I'm noticing these like stupid little errors. And Hannah is going crazy and keeps stealing the blanket from me, but that's regardless. Anything else? Oh yeah, obviously. The giant thing is Dan dying. And the amazing conversation between Nathan and Dan on the river court, which you know wasn't like real because they're in the hospital, but he finally explains where he was at with the school shooting, where his mind was at, why he killed Keith. Like, all these years we've kind of known, but he's never really explained it. We've never had that insight into the character, like, you know, why did you kill your own brother in cold blood? And so that was just an amazing, it was an amazing scene, and it was amazing how Nathan basically finally forgave his father and kind of came to terms with the whole situation, and then them playing their first and last game on the river court together was just super nice. Super nice. And then he dies. And so I'm thinking, like, I really need to see Keith right now. Like, this would be complete if you could just see Keith. But how are they gonna work that in? And so he's flatlining, and Nathan's like, Dad, 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 and then he runs out of the room, and then Dan opens his eyes and looks over, and Keith is standing right there, and tears. Tears upon tears upon tears, to the point where, like, Hannah is hugging me. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I miss Keith so much. He was such an amazing character. I think I've said amazing a lot. It was a really good episode. It was really good. So one thing, I don't have the time right now to go back and rewatch the episode, but has anyone recently watched that school shooting episode? Did Keith actually tell Jimmy, the school shooter, it gets better? Like, did that whole campaign, the it gets better, bullying, acceptance, high school drama, it gets better campaign, did that start with One Tree Hill? Like, can we trace the roots back to that? Because that would have been, I think that was my senior year of college. 2005? Was that a 2005 episode? Maybe 2006. So it's fairly old. And I know the It Gets Better campaign has been strong in recent years, but does it go back? Anyways, someone tell me that. Which came first? Chicken, egg, One Tree Hill, It Gets Better. Is that really what he said? Or are they just saying that now to connect it? Anyways, so I'm gonna watch episode, oh my god, do I really have 12, 13, and 14? I'm confused at this point. I'm gonna watch whatever is left in my DVR tomorrow night. Because it's 11. I just put Hannah down. I think I hear her. But I want to get a good night's sleep. I don't want to be, like, exhausted while I'm soaking in the last 120 minutes of One Tree Hill. I'm really sad. So thank you for watching this video. Sorry there is no Hannah funny footage of her slapping me in the face. But yeah, it was a good episode. It was a real tearjerker. Glad I wore waterproof mascara. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.